So welcome everybody. My name is Stephanie Goldfarb. I am serving a dual purpose today. I am not only a Mishkan community member, builder, past board member. I am also the director of community engagement for Honeymoon Israel in Chicago. So we have this amazing like meshing of worlds today, which is so beautiful. I'm so thrilled that you all joined for this weird experiment that we're gonna do. I've never taught anything like this before, but we're gonna give it our best shot. For those of you who did not get the memo, if you haven't done so already, please preheat your ovens to 475 right now, because it takes a while for our ovens to heat up. And in the meantime, we're gonna do a little bit of learning, because we can't just like jump into the baking. We gotta lead up to a little bit. And I have some stuff that I'd love to like teach and explore with all of you about why we're even here anyway. Like, what are we doing making matzah in 18 minutes? So while our ovens preheat, I've got like a little bit of a learning that I'd love to share with you all. Oh, what?
There's
people are trying to get in.
Can you send out, Hannah said, can you send
Zach, apparently there are people trying to get in and they don't have the Zoom link. So if you could send out that Zoom link to people, that would
Sure. So are they people who registered? Because everybody who registered will have the Zoom
Hannah,
link.
somebody named Hannah tried to register or tried to get in and she doesn't have the Zoom link. I don't know.
Okay. Let me see what I can do.
We're working on it. Okay, sorry. So, all right. So I am going to, as our ovens are preheating. So, all right. So what are we doing here? First of all, for anyone who doesn't know, Passover is upon us. So Passover is actually the most widely celebrated Jewish holiday in all of North America. We sit, we have dinner, and we tell the story of the Exodus, the story of the Jews, the Israelites fleeing Egypt because we were enslaved there. There's a tradition to eat very special foods on Passover, and one of them is matzah. And I'm guessing most of us have tasted it or at least heard of it in the past, but there are some special rules about matzah for those of you who don't know. And one of the most special rules about matzah is that it has to be baked in 18 minutes or less. And I wanted to share with you some of the, some of the teachings that I've researched in preparation for this class. From my understanding, there are two theories at play here about why matzah must be baked in 18 minutes or less. The first is that when the Israelites fled Egypt, they had only 18 minutes to leave from the time that they like packed up all their stuff at home and like fled Egypt. And because they only had 18 minutes, the dough that they were making for that night's meal, it didn't have any time to rise. And so thus we get matzah, which is a very like unleavened flat bread. My more favorite theory about this is that according to Jewish teaching, it takes 18 minutes for fermentation to take place. And for those of you who don't know, fermentation is what causes bread to rise. It's one of the things that causes bread to rise. And since on Passover, we avoid eating foods that are risen, so then we want to eat matzah, which is the only bread we're allowed to eat. We want to eat matzah, which is bread that's baked in under 18 minutes. And for anyone who doesn't know, 18 is also the symbol for life in Judaism, which I think is really beautiful, because if 18 is the symbol for life, and 18 is also the time in which it takes for fermentation to take place, which is life, you can see where I'm going with this, the growing, the baking, the rising, it's all linked up. And aside from, so we're here today, we're gonna be making some homemade matzah. I want to preface this by saying I do not have a kosher kitchen. What that means is like, if I eat meat and milk in my kitchen, I don't have separate plates. I don't keep things in separate areas. I just don't do that. It's like not a part of my practice. So therefore, the matzah that I'll be making in my kitchen today is not technically kosher. What does that mean? Okay, what that means is that according to some, this matzah, because the kitchen in which I'm cooking isn't technically kosher, the matzah that we're making isn't good for Passover. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not buying it. To me, matzah is what is the intention that you put into it, and the intention that we are all baking into this entire experience today is really holy and transformative and beautiful. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about, aside from the matzah that we're making together today in our kitchen, there are two different kinds of matzah. There's homemade, there's store-bought matzah, which you can buy like in the supermarket, lots of different brands, Menashevitz, Straitz's, whatever. Some of these boxes are marked kosher for Passover, and some of them aren't. The kosher for Passover ones, they're kosher because rabbis have blessed them and because the ingredients have been guarded against fermentation, and there's an even higher level of matzah called shmora matzah, which shmora in Hebrew is the word for guard, to guard. So it's rabbis that guard the wheat that's made, that makes this matzah from the time the wheat is harvested, to make sure the grain never comes into contact with moisture prior to becoming dough, because if it did, then fermentation could start taking place, and therefore it would never be matzah. I'm guessing most of us grew up with the factory made stuff, the stuff that you buy in the supermarket. Maybe it was marked kosher for Passover, maybe it wasn't. I'm actually not sure what I grew up, I don't know if the stuff we grew up with was kosher or not, but we had matzah on our table, and you know, as with everything in Judaism, if you ask two Jews for an opinion, at best you'll get 3 responses, maybe more. And the point being here is that this matzah that we're making together is really holy and really beautiful, and it's about the intentionality that we bake into it. Something really special about matzah is that it's a bread that has a lot of transitory properties. So the matzah that you have on your Seder table, it begins its life during the Seder as the bread of slavery and affliction. And as you tell the story of the Exodus, as you tell the story of the Jews fleeing Egypt, the matzah takes on other qualities, and it becomes the bread of liberation and freedom and miracles, and all because we're telling a story and because we're saying so, which is a really beautiful thing. And let's see, before we bake our matzah, oh, Rachel Kaplan raised a hand. Rachel, what do you want to say? Rachel, did you raise your hand? All right, well, okay, so before we bake our matzah, I want to invite everybody to think a little bit about an intention that you want to make before we bake our matzah, because this isn't just any old baking project. This isn't just 18 minutes spent in the kitchen. This is like a little deeper, actually. What we're doing is we're participating in this storytelling of the Jews fleeing Egypt, and we're taking part in a really important ritual. And I would love to invite everyone to take a minute to reflect on some kind of intention that you want to set for your baking practice today. It does not have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be some earth-shattering thing. It can be as simple as you're thinking about your family. I know that many of us aren't able to be with our families for Passover this year because of this crazy global health pandemic that we're all in. You know, just to keep your family sort of in your mind right now could be a very special thing. It could be an intention of something having to do with the theme of slavery or liberation or freedom. In that way, we can sort of elevate our baking together and make it something a little extra special. Does anyone like have an intention that they want to share or set that they feel like announcing? What are you baking into your matzah today? Anyone? Anyone? You do. Someone does. Eliana, go for it.
Go ahead.
Am I baking into my matzah?
What do you want to say?
I'm going to make the matzah into a different shape than a square or a circle, like a heart or a diamond.
Ooh, I love that. The creativity with the matzah shapes. That's beautiful. I love it. Bring it. Anyone else? Oh, Lisa's intention is to bake hopefulness into her matzah. That's beautiful. I love it. Any other intentions? Yes, Danielle has an idea. Intention. Danielle. All right. Anyone?
It looks like she's having trouble unmuting.
Oh, okay.
All right,
okay,
everybody. I got it.
You got it.
So my intention is to I say this without crying, but my intention is to express gratitude for the thousands and thousands of years of the Jewish people who carried on the tradition with so much plagues and bad people and bad rulers and sicknesses. Just we are in a time when here we are all of a sudden, you know, freedom looks different. So my intention is to put the gratitude for ancestors.
Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you
Sure.
so much. Thank you so much for that. And you know, this is in so many ways, this moment is so remarkable because this sort of global health pandemic, I mean, this is unprecedented in so many ways, and in others, it's not at all. Passover seders, matzah baking, Jewish tradition, like these are things that have been carried down through incredibly hard circumstances for years and years and centuries. And in that way, we're actually very connected to our ancestors, who many of whom were in not great conditions. So this is really special that we're able to do this. And I just like want to say, like, good for all of you for opting in to this moment, good for you for like opting into baking something and with intention today, because Netflix is calling and Hulu is calling and whatever, all the other stuff that you could, you know, taking a walk outside right now is calling. And right now you're all making the choice to like opt in and do something to connect. And I hope that, you know, despite the fact that we're not all physically together, I hope you all feel connected to each other and to Jewish ancestors and tradition right now. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else?
I actually have a bit of a logistical question from.
Yes.
We have been asked whether this is doable with gluten-free flour.
I don't know, but let's try it. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? Someone's gonna make a mess or something's not gonna work. I don't know, like, let's try it, let's get weird. I don't know. Anyone else? Okay, so I'm gonna have my handy dandy tech person, my partner, Hunter. Are you on?
You want me to join?
Yeah, join. So he's gonna start recording me from my phone now. Can you
Oh,
see?
that's me. Oh, there we go.
You got it?
Using internet audio?
Yep. Can you see me? Sorry. Hang on. Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties. We're going to go ahead and use my computer. Go ahead and turn that off.
Just turn it off.
Yeah. Okay, so follow me into my kitchen. We are going to get started. So hopefully everyone's ovens are on 475, and Hunter's going to do his best to film me using my computer. We're going to get started. Okay, so welcome to my kitchen. It's pretty small, but it works. I'm here in Chicago, in Ravenswood. No, don't do it like that. I don't think it does that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna measure 2 cups of flour in a measuring cup. And I just wanna share with all of you the way that I measure flour, because actually this is important. So what I do, instead of, I think the impetus, like the thing a lot of people want to do is they want to take their measuring cup and dip it into the flour. What that actually does is it compacts the flour and you don't get an accurate read. So what I do, come on in closer, Hunter. So what I do is I open my bag of flour and I take a spoon and I measure like this. And I sort of like fluff up the flour a little bit. And I do not shake my measuring cup to even it because, again, that will compact the flour. And I'm just filling up 1 cup. I'm making a mess. And then I use the back of my spoon to kind of get it level. 1 cup. And here comes another cup. You can see that I'm not a very clean cook. I tend to be like a little messy, but it's worked for me so far. And by the way, I just want to say, if anybody has questions at any point during this, I am here to troubleshoot. I'm not just here to bake, so please allow me to help you in whatever way I can. And I'm going to rely on Zach to monitor the chat for me so that I don't have to. Okay, so we've got a bowl of flour, and here's the really important part. Before any water touches our flour, we're gonna start a timer. because we want to cook this in under 18 minutes. So, Zach, or someone, can someone volunteer to set a timer? Yep, Zach's got a timer. Okay, Zach,
Right
I'm
here.
going to ask you 3, 2, 1. I am pouring the water into my flour, and I'm going to take my very clean hand, extra clean these days, right? Everyone can join with me. Pour your water into the flour, and I'm going to use my hand to start stirring it a little bit. And I'm actually using my fingertips to stir the water into the flour, and it's gonna make a very shaggy dough. Stirring, stirring, stirring. How are we all doing? Is it going well? 1 cup of water, yes, 1 cup of water into the 2 cups of flour. Everyone's doing great. And as you can see, I'm just sort of working this around in my bowl, and it's getting it's like a little sticky, but it's also pretty shaggy. And I want to show you the kneading technique that I use to make this all come together. So what I'm doing, to come focus in on this, what I'm doing is I'm sort of grabbing the flour and I'm pushing it down, and I'm grabbing the dough and I'm pushing it down, grabbing the dough, pushing it down. You can also do this on your countertop if you want. I would recommend sprinkling a little bit more flour onto your surface if you do. I'm actually gonna do that right now because mine's a little sticky. So I'm taking a little extra flour from the bag, I'm sprinkling it on, and again, the reason why I'm doing that is because this dough feels pretty sticky to me, and I wanna be able to work with it. So now that I've got a cohesive ball of dough, I'm gonna get rid of this bowl. And I now have a big ball of dough, and it feels really good. It feels soft. It feels like I can work with it. If yours is too sticky, Penny, you can add flour to it. Just keep adding flour, but the more flour you add, the more dry your end product will be. So I recommend that you try to get away with adding as little flour as possible. Hunter, if you can focus on the counter now. I want to show you all my kneading technique. It's sort of like a push and a pull, like a push and a pull. And I'm making sure that my countertop is well floured. And as you can see, I'm now just working my ball of dough in a circle. And it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. It just has to sort of come together. I'm gonna go wash my hands off really quick. Okay, so I'm back. Hello. I washed my hands. They were covered in flour. I'm gonna take my favorite tool in the entire kitchen. This is called a bench scraper. You can also just use a knife or whatever's laying around, but I'm gonna separate, if you can look at this, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna separate my dough into 4 pieces, just like that. So this is gonna be 4 different pieces of matzah that I have to work with. And I'm gonna work with just one at a time. So I have one little ball of dough here, and I'm gonna get a little bit more flour from my bag, and I'm gonna sprinkle the countertop with flour. And I'm gonna put my ball of dough here and flatten it out. Now, if you have a rolling pin, this is a good time to bust it out. If you do not have a rolling pin, don't worry. You can use a water glass, you can literally just take a water glass and can you come down here? You can take a water glass and you can roll your dough like that. Just be careful not to break your water glass. You can use a wine bottle, just something round and cylindrical. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna start rolling out your dough. And if the dough sticks to the counter, you can use your bench scraper. If you don't have a bench scraper, you can use a spatula just to help you lift it up off the board. And let's see, mine's a little sticky, so I'm gonna, if your matzah is sticky, you can keep adding flour just so that you can work with it. You wanna be able to lift your dough off the counter and work with it. I'm gonna get rid of this so I don't break it. So I'm getting my matzah. Who said they were gonna make a diamond? I would love to see that diamond, but I'm sort of using my hands to get some sort of shape. The shape doesn't matter as much. You know, when you get the factory bought stuff, it tends to come in a square. I don't know how they do that. I'm not getting anything into a square over here. But I'm gonna get my matzah pretty thin. It doesn't have to be, can you focus up now? It doesn't have to be paper thin. It just has to be, I'll show you, I'll show you how thin mine is. It's about like that. I got it pretty thin. It's a pretty loose dough. You can also use your hands. Here, watch. I'm using my hands now to sort of flatten it out. And with enough flour on the board, on your countertop, there shouldn't be an issue with it sticking. So now what I'm gonna do, Zach, how much time do we have? How are we doing?
We are doing great. We have 12 minutes and 40 seconds left.
Oh, you guys, we could bake like 1,000 matzahs in this time. We're all doing great. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Everyone doing okay? I'm seeing people working. All right, good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take a fork and, here, follow me down here. I'm gonna take a fork and I'm going to do what's called docking. Docking, and you'll see, look, I have some holes in mine. It really doesn't matter. We like to call that artisanal. So I'm taking my fork and I'm using it to create little holes all around the dough. And what this does here, what this does is that it prevents the dough from rising. Again, we don't want any rising here. We want a nice flat piece of matzah. And what I'm gonna do is I'm now gonna take this over to my prepared sheet with parchment paper on it. And I'm just gonna lay it down and I'm gonna do another one. So come back with me. And we're just gonna continue with this process. I've got another ball of dough. I'm gonna put some more flour on my board. And if it's sticky, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna put it in the flour. I'm gonna pick it up and drop it in the flour, start patting it down, use the rolling pin to start rolling this matzah out. And as you can see, with just basically no ingredients, we have bread here. This really will be edible, I promise. Using my hands to kind of smooth it out a little bit. This one looks like a country, but I don't know which one. And I'm using, again, a fork to dock my matzah. And this one feels ready-ish to me. So, uh-oh, it's sticking to my board. Here comes the bench scraper. And coming over here. So that's really what we're doing. I'm gonna pop my first batch of matzah into the oven. I don't really think it matters which shelf you put it on, but while folks are finishing their first round of matzah, I wanted to know if anybody has any questions for me about what you're doing, about cooking in general. I'm seeing a lot of busy hands, so maybe you don't have any at this point. You're focused on your matzah. But for those of you who don't know, oh, how long do you put it in the oven for? Penny, great question. Until it's done. I think it should take about 5 minutes for this matzah to be done. I'm gonna show you what it looks like when I think mine's done. It should be golden brown. Another question, can you season or flavor your matzah? Sure, why not? Technically, in order for matzah to be kosher, it can't have any seasonings on it. It has to be only flour and water. I have a box of garlic flavored matzah in my pantry right now, and I'm really looking forward to it. Again, to me, you ask me, matzah is about the intentionality that you put into it, and it's about doing something interesting and sort of elevating your food and eating food that you don't typically eat. And you know, if you want to put some sesame seeds on your matzah to make it feel a little elevated and special, I say go for it. But if Rabbi Lizzie was here, she might, I don't know, she might disagree with me. Does the docking release steam? Yeah, I think it does. I think the docking, again, when we were poking our holes in the matzah, I think it does release steam. And again, it also just prevents the matzah from rising too much. And the reason why, by the way, we have our ovens on such a high temperature is because we want our matzah to cook as quickly as possible. Again, we only have 18 minutes from start to finish to make this matzah. So that's why we're doing that. And I see a lot of busy hands. I see a lot of floury hands. Oh, 8 minutes and 30 seconds left. I think we're gonna be fine. Are folks doing okay? I see some thumbs up. I see some flower. Jan's waving her flower. Oh, Jan has a question, but she is muted.
Oh, unmute her.
Zach, if you could, there she is. Jan, what's your question?
Sorry, I didn't hear how long we keep the.
I'm gonna guess 5 minutes. Depending on your oven, if you're using a convection oven, it might take a little shorter. I'm guessing at minimum around 5 minutes. I'm gonna check mine in just a few. It's gonna be different depending on your oven and you know how good your oven is.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I also wanted to offer to answer questions about being on TV. For those of you who don't know, so my full-time job is working in the Jewish community, which is my passion and my love. I love working in the Jewish community. But I have sort of like a side hustle, like a side life as a chef. And for a couple of years, I was on a variety of different television shows where I cooked food and competed to win prizes and defeated other people and crushed other people's dreams. So if anybody has any questions about TV or cooking or food of any kind, like I'm just waiting for my matzah to bake. So if anyone, have you been on Chopped? Chopped is the one that I have not been on. It's the one that I'm the most intimidated by. And if I get the chance to be on Chopped, I'm definitely gonna take it because when I was preparing for my other TV spots, I would actually go through on Wikipedia, you can find the list of all of the Chopped challenges and all the ingredients that were in the basket. And I used to prepare for my roles on TV by going through the baskets and setting a timer for myself to see how quickly I could put something together. So, yes, Marlie says, my niece wants you to know that I'm America's best home chef. That's true. How long will the matzah last once baked? So once you bake this matzah, I'm gonna guess that it'll last, like it could last sort of like indefinitely. We're only talking about, not indefinitely, but it'll technically last for a long time because it's really just flour that's being baked. All the water is gonna be evaporated. But how long will it take, how long will it taste good? I would say maybe a couple of days. Put it in a Ziploc bag, keep any moisture out of it, it should be fine. Steph, do you get recruited for shows or do you apply? How does the process work? I get recruited. So after my first show, which was called America's Best Cook, I won the show. And since then, I just get phone calls from producers who want to use me. It's been a while since I got a call, but for a little while, I was on a bunch of different shows. One called Food Fighters on NBC and the other called Kitchen Inferno back on Food Network. But originally, yes. Oh, it wasn't a cold call. No, I auditioned for it.
Right.
For my Hunter's whispering in my ear.
Just for regular.
Hunter's right here.
Hello.
He's videoing me. No. So for the first show that I was on, I had to audition. I brought a dish with me, and I was in a room full of like, I don't know, hundreds of people, and they interviewed me and ate my food, and it was good enough. So I got on the show. Can someone come over and clean my kitchen? 5 minutes on the timer. Thank you, Zach. Let's see, Lisa, Hunter will be over in half an hour to clean your kitchen. Any other questions about anything? I'm gonna check my matzah actually. So if you wanna come with me, we'll try to see if you can look in my oven. I still have what looks like very doughy matzah, and I have asbestos hands. I don't recommend that you all touch your matzah in the way. Don't reach into your oven like I just did. My hands are calloused from years of burns, so. But mine's like still really flexible and pale. There's no way it's ready. So I'm just gonna let it hang out in there for a couple of minutes. I read online that as long as you're kneading the dough, the 18 minutes doesn't start until you stop. Mandie, you got different information than me. I wish we had a rabbi or maybe somebody else knows, but according to my research, from the time that the water touches the flour, the 18 minutes starts, but maybe we have more time than we thought. I don't know, I'm not sure. Diptaman, you asked, Ray, you asked, ever think about opening your own restaurant or something of the sort? So I kind of did, and it wasn't for me. I ran a supper club in Chicago called the 7 Species Supper Club, and I ran it out of our apartment for about 5 years. And all of the proceeds went to a different nonprofit every month. It was 7 courses, twice a month, 28 people. And it was just my sous chef and me. My sous chef is an actual like Michelin star chef. Like like for real. And the two of us put out like tons of food every month, and we were raising thousands of dollars for different nonprofits in the area, and we loved it. But it's not really my true passion. My true passion is doing Jewish stuff in interesting ways. So probably no restaurant in my future. Ever think, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for asking. Who else? Anybody else have questions? How are matzahs looking at this point? Can anybody like see if their matzah is brown? You want to look for brown. You want it to be brown and look crispy. Still pale, no problem. Don't worry about it. It'll get there. How are we doing on time, Zach? 6 minutes in. Oh, still pale. Still doughy. Neither brown nor crispy. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. 2 minutes and 45 seconds left. I think we'll be okay. I might jack up the temperature on my oven a little bit because my oven's not great. So anyway, we're just sort of waiting for the matzah to brown. Any questions, insights? Should we put in our second batch? Sure. Yeah, put your second batch in. Yeah. Can you show us how to make matzo ball soup next? Yeah, absolutely. If I had all the ingredients, I would, but we could do another one where I show you how to make matzo ball soup. Just so everyone knows, I really just follow the directions on the back of the package because that's what my mom does, and her matzo balls are amazing, and I don't fix what's not broken. How do you get the flour off your hands? Water. Go wash your hands. You'll be fine. Will the matzah be crispy on both sides when it's done? It should be. Again, some of this is really dependent on your oven. If you feel like it, open the oven, bring out the matzah, and flip it upside down, and then both sides should get super, super crispy. But it should be crisp. It should be crisp, like matzah, like what you're thinking about, from the store. What's everyone else doing for Passover? Is anybody else like making anything really interesting for Passover this year with all the incredible time that we have on our hands right now? I'd love to hear like if anybody's making anything really. Oh,
short ribs.
Short ribs. Excellent call with the short ribs. Any particular recipe?
I'm gonna try it. But I have a cooking question. Does it have to be browned before it's braised, or can you just put it in the liquid?
Put short ribs?
Yes, because the instructions say I have to like brown it on the side. Do you really have to do that step?
I would do it. I would sear your so this recipe is telling you to do what's called searing your meat before you braise it. I totally would, because when you sear the outside of meat, it becomes sort of caramelized and you get that brown. It's called the Maillard reaction, and it essentially just caramelizes the meat and makes it really delicious. But you could skip it. You just won't have like a nice crust around your meat. Let's see, Mandie, this is your big project, homemade matzah. Kids want to braid the matzah. I would love to see some braided matzah. I think that's a fantastic idea. Oh, Linda, you're doing a virtual Seder with your family. Matzah bubbles. I say keep the matzah bubbles. This is about liberation and freedom. Don't squash the bubbles. They're being liberated from the matzah. Persian Gandhi soup. Andrew, what's Persian Gandhi ball soup? Can you tell us? I don't know, chickpeas. Something with chickpeas. That sounds good. Okay, Sarah Wasser flipped the matzah because the bottom wasn't crisping. She's using a silicone baking mat, so that might be why. So like if you're using a silicone baking mat, it can prevent food from really getting crispy and brown. So if you're using a silicone baking mat, you might want to flip yours over. Oh, Zach says that's time. Wait, I'm bringing out my matzah. Let's see. All right, it's a little pale. Woo! Starting to brown. That's matzah. It's a little bit flexible, but you can see that it's starting to brown. It's definitely cooked. And that's matzah. I mean, that's it. We did it. I say we did it. It's still cooling. Again, don't touch your matzah right away like I am, because I'm guessing that many of you don't have like calloused hands like I do, but here's our matzah. It's starting to get brown. I might bake it a little longer, and possibly why mine didn't get as brown as I would have liked it is because I didn't roll it out as thinly as I could have, because I felt rushed and anxious. So I think the key to getting a super, super crispy matzah in under 18 minutes is rolling it out as thinly as possible. But this is it. This is how you make matzah. And I'm gonna go ahead and call it a win. Anybody have any questions about anything? Yeah, you can throw it back in. Anybody have any questions about anything? Insights into this process? What's your must-have Passover dish? Neil, let's see, my must-have Passover dish, matzah crack. Do you know what that is? It's like, it's the matzah, and you make like a caramel with butter and brown sugar, and you pour it over the matzah, and then you put chocolate chips on top of that, and I do like a little sea salt and pistachios. We're gonna bake some later today. So maybe with our homemade matzah. I don't know. I feel like I really need that. And matzo ball soup, I for sure need. Oh, does anybody need help right now? Hunter just whispered him, you can just say it. Does anybody need help with anything? I'll send a recipe. I'm happy to send a recipe for the matzah crack. Recipe for jelly fruit. I don't have a recipe for okay, so what Eliana is referring to is like there's these jelly slices. Is that what they look like fruit slices?
Wait, here.
Oh, Hunter has some. We just buy ours from the store because I'm lazy, but that'd be a good challenge, learning how to make jelly slices. Let's see, officially, can folks show these jelly slices? We love those. Those are a classic. You gotta have the jelly slices. Can folks show us does anybody have a finished product?
Okay.
Anyone have a finished matzah they want to show us? Was anybody able to do that? Oh, here we go. Casey, that is definitely matzah. Yes, you win for sure. Anyone else? Penny, you've got a matzah for sure. That's matzah. You guys, yours is looking even better than mine. Amazing, amazing. Oh, Neil, you guys. Oh, I'm seeing that you're already biting the matzah. Is this good matzah? Is it good? It's good. I'm seeing the thumbs up.
Ray.
Ray. Wait, where's Ray? Oh, you got the matzah. Charoset recipe. All right, here's what I do for charoset. I blend Ashkenazi and Sephardic. For those of you who don't know, Ashkenazi Jews are from like Europe, like Eastern Europe. Sephardic Jews tend to be from Spain, Morocco, that area. And these Jews tend to eat different foods. And I grew up Ashkenazi. So the charoset that I grew up eating was apples and walnuts and wine and honey. I like the Sephardic kind even better. I use dried figs and dates, and I reconstitute them in orange juice and or a little lemon juice and sugar and water. And then I blend that with pistachios and almonds, and I use pomegranate molasses and all kinds of amazing things that don't actually belong to me because I'm Ashkenazi. Oh, Zach, I saw your matzah. Hold it up for us.
It's going back in for a finishing touch.
Going back in, that's fine, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, let it go. Any other questions? Any other, I don't know, insights? Another question, having trouble finding horseradish. What other bitter roots could you use for your charoset recipes? So if you're having trouble finding fresh horseradish this year, don't worry, I have some answers for you. So I recommend using fresh radishes. Ginger is a really good example. Anything that is like spicy and kind of makes you, kind of makes your mouth pucker, and something that isn't the most comfortable thing to eat. Some of my friends are even using jalapenos, if you can find that. But another suggestion that I have is that you can actually use the roots of whatever you're using for what's it called? What you usually use parsley for. Karpas, thank you. You can just eat the roots of that vegetable, and that counts as like what the horseradish would usually count for. Extra flour on the matzah, can I brush it off? Definitely brush off, like Hunter says, lick it off. You can definitely brush off the extra flour. Yeah. Are there any questions, insights, thoughts? How was this for folks? How's your matzah looking? It's looking good. I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. Oh, that makes me very happy.
Trouble?
Anyone having trouble? I'm taking a screenshot right here of all of you. This is tasty. People are eating their matzah. I'm loving it. All right. Well, folks, feel free to stay on with me. And
someone made a heart.
Oh, someone made a heart. Jamie, I see your heart. It's beautiful. I'm loving it. Other folks, please feel free to share your matzah photos. Or just hold your matzah up to, yes, Eitan, I'm seeing it. That's beautiful. Feel free to stay on. I have nowhere to go. Oh, Marlie and Kenley, you're eating your matzah. It looks beautiful. Give a crunch. How is it? Is it crunchy? Is it okay? They seem to like it. Any other questions about any of this? Food, TV, what's in my kitchen? What's in my refrigerator? I know you said it's not kosher to add anything, but how much salt would you recommend this recipe to taste good? I would say for this recipe, I would add 2 teaspoons of salt, and then I might add a little bit of extra salt on the top. I'd sprinkle some extra salt on the top before you bake it. And not that I'm encouraging it, but whatever, I'm encouraging it. Sesame seeds would be good. Za'atar would be good. You can make some sweet matzah with cinnamon and sugar. That would be delicious. I'm looking at my spice. Here are my spices. I'm sort of looking at what's available. You could go chili flakes if you want to. I might even do some like butter and nutritional yeast. That sounds good. Great cooking. Oh yes. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone
send out the recipe for matzah crack.
Oh, I can send out the recipe for matzah crack. Yeah, sure. Zach, can we do that?
Yeah, of course. We have the emails of everyone who registered, so we can go ahead and send it out to them that way.
Awesome.
If you have one easily accessible you'd like to drop in the chat.
I don't, but I will.
Great. Well, then we can take it later this afternoon.
I'll do it. Does anybody else have any other questions about matzah, about Judaism? I'll do my best to answer questions about Judaism. I'm not a rabbi, but I do spend my time thinking about Jewish stuff. Ooh, Ellen rubbed hers with olive oil and sprinkled salt. That's a really good idea. Do what Ellen does. That's really good. You guys are the best. Thank you. So happy to have cooked with all of you. If anybody has any other questions about anything, I can answer questions on a range of topics, or at least I can pretend to. Otherwise, I think we'll sign off pretty soon. So amazing cooking with all of you. Thank you Ellen says we'll never buy store-bought again. This is, I couldn't have asked for anything.
What are you making for Passover?
What am I making for Passover? I'll tell you my menu. Even though it's just the two of us, I am making matzo ball soup, classic matzo ball soup, my mother's matzo balls, which are really just the Manischewitz matzo balls from the back of the package. We are doing roast chicken. We're gonna do some potato kugel. I do mock chop liver, which is the only thing. Hunter loves the mock chop liver. I make it with canned peas and caramelized onions and walnuts and hard-boiled eggs. It's a very weird recipe, but it's really good. And a big salad with asparagus, and of course matzah crack. That's what we're having. That's what's going on. Put a lot of butter. Marlie, you put a lot of butter on yours. That doesn't shock me. I know you love butter. Get it, girl. Can you send the mock chop liver? I can definitely send the mock chop liver, 1000%. It's my grandmother's recipe. She'd be very, my matzah is now coming out of the oven. So it was a little over 18 minutes, but again, I think that this is just because I got anxious and didn't roll my matzah. I didn't roll it out as thinly as possible, but this is like, that's pretty done. Woof, very hot. Anyone else? Questions, anything? Can I be useful in any other way?
Do you have an Instagram of your food?
Do I have an Instagram? My Instagram is Foodfarb, FOODFARB. And it's not just food, it's mostly my dog, but I post stuff about food sometimes too there. Jan, I think Jan is talking, but she's on mute. Jan.
Hi, I missed your looking at your matzah. I was turning around looking at mine. Oh, great.
I would even say this is a little overdone.
It's a little overdone.
Yeah.
I just added a little olive oil on my second batch based on whoever suggested that.
That's a great idea. I think that's a beautiful idea. Again, like whether your matzah is technically kosher or not, look at all the intentionality we're baking into ours. Look at all of this, look at this amazing experience. Doesn't it just mean so much more to just actually do it yourself? I think so. All right. Well, everyone, if anybody else has any other questions about anything, or if I can be supportive in any other way, and you guys can reach me at stephanie@honeymoonisrael.org. Otherwise, Chag Sameach, happy Passover. Oh, Molly says hers looks more like flatbread than matzah. Molly, mine does too, and that's because you and I did not roll ours out as thinly as we should have. So,
but does it need to be crackery? Is flatbread okay?
I think look, there's no raising agent. You baked it in something like 18 minutes or less. I feel like that's matzah. But it should be sort of cracker. I think it should be crackery. But whatever, as long as it tastes good. That's what I say. Any other questions? Anything? All right. Everybody, Hag Sameach, which means happy Passover. Happy holiday is really what that means. And thank you so much for joining. This was a lot of fun. I hope you learned a little. I hope you got messy. I hope you made something. Oh, did the gluten-free matzah work? Who did the gluten-free matzah? You guys were, you did it? Eitan?
So we actually used a combination of regular flour and gluten-free flour because we ran out of regular flour. And it came out perfectly.
That's incredible. Oh, and Sarah Wasser, you made gluten-free too that's fantastic. I had no idea. That's beautiful. Amazing. I'm so excited for you. All right, everybody. We're gonna get going. Happy Passover. Enjoy your matzah. Thanks for spending your afternoon with me. And we'll say goodbye from our kitchen.
Bye.
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 Zach, I'm happy to stay on for just a sec.
Bye.
Bye, Mondo.
Should try it.